Yeah, we can do that. Then I go back here. You read it already, but this is Charlemagne speaking about his own electronic music, and I think the text is so beautiful that if you want to hear a short excerpt, we should have this as a background. Yeah, here is it. Maybe you read it before with the piano. This was really speaking about the electronic music. But I cannot start the electronic music if I don't go out of here. So I will start the music and go back to this. It's recently published just before Christmas. It's the Alga Marghen Christmas album. It's electronic music by Charlemagne. My favorite, I did a few already. It's called Battling the Invisible, which was a title of a performance, but we agree it could be well described in the music. It includes 2 electronic music pieces and 2 piano pieces. Because he liked the idea to make things unpure, chaotic, bordelic, confusionary. So only electronic was too much pure. That's how I like it. And he said, no, let's complicate things. So you have these 2 electronic pieces, which are really stronger. And when it finished, you like go out of that, and you have a gentle short take of piano music, which is also a little obsessive. I didn't edit anything out. These were 3 takes of piece called piano piece. One is 45 minutes long, and one is just 5, and the other is 7. So we took the short one as like a gentle way out of this immersive electronic piece. There is a lost electronic piece by Charlemagne, which we were never able to find in the archives. It's called L'Avventura, after the Antonioni movie. A woman disappears on an island. There is this sense of suspended atmosphere. You don't know what is going on. This was the title, according to what he says, to his best electronic music piece ever, which disappeared. When he heard Low Sound 3, which we are going to hear now, he said, you know, with my chaotic way of keeping archive, but maybe this is L'Avventura, because it's really an incredible piece. I will fade it out in a moment because it's 15 minutes long. I would take it all, but just to give an idea. So here is Low Sounds 3. very intense. Charlemagne was working in New York University studio, NYU, and he had the right to access the electronic music studio late at night. So this is all night recordings. He did that. This is before, I don't remember, I think they had the Buchla 100 and 200 systems there. This is before Donald Buchla built a synthesizer especially for him, which is 2 metal boxes that Charlemagne called the drum machines, and that he used to do all his drone music later on. And if you happen to be in Milano in September, I'm organizing with the gallery there the installation of Books of Continuity. It's experimental work that he did, and what is Franklin Furnace in 74, I think was, 77. It's experiment he did with books. He poured ink, and the ink passed through the pages. Many artists did that, and according to the thickness and the ink from the other side, the procedure you do this, it's like a continuity book with shades of color, basically. And we are installing this. The books can be open as an example, but for installation, I think he did in Beaux-Arts in Brussels, he made a video, which was part of the installation, of a one page morph into the other. So you have like the idea of, and we will project it very big, of this ever-changing color. The gallery is on a very noisy road, so we will amplify the glass window of the gallery so that it's the window of the gallery that project the sounds outside. This something we are preparing now. And the sound is generated by the drone machine that he will bring in Milano. He will create the sound and he can stop it there, and the machine goes on by itself. That's what he's supposed to do. Okay, let's pass to Oeuvre sonore number 2. The Nouveau Média solicited me to have something with Luc Ferrari, that they were acquiring more and more in their collection. So just, I can take this, here is it. I'll go straight to the fanzine. And speaking of overdoing, if the first meeting was very dense, the second one we did on 2 days. One was not enough, April 5th and 6th, 2008. We collaborated with Brunhilde, that is Luc Ferrari's wife. Unfortunately, Luc Ferrari died already at that time, and we invited many of his best friends. So it was really like a Luc Ferrari family, close people presentation. And Jacques Brissot was a collagist with whom he did the first experimental movies, and very good friend. Some are more, Jacqueline Coe is a historian. He was the wife of Daniel Coe, I think, a producer, famous producer in France. Andrea Cernotti is a friend of mine. Elisabeth is a harpsichord player. Daniel Teruggi. So it's the people that could even give a testimony. About what? About the program we created. So this was the 5th of April. And I remember very well, it's a long span of time. We tried to make a display of his career and evolution. It was spring, 5th and 6th of April. These were a weekend, the most beautiful spring day in Paris. Sunshine, everybody, girls, everybody is... and we proposed to close yourself in a dark room to listen to electronic music. And we thought nobody would come, because who is the crazy going to something, who paying? In fact, all the museum at that time was for free. It was like a weekend of the open museum. But they asked money. So we were the only event where you had to pay to close yourself in a dark room to listen to experimental music. Many people came. It was another successful thing that we did over 2 days, the 5th of April and the 6th of April. The 6th of April, we presented Derivative, Premiere, was the first time that Brunhilde presented her own work, because she has always been close to Luc as a wife, as a companion. She's also a composer, so they shared all the music adventure. She's present with the voice in many dialogue that become radio work, that was some of his specialty, but she was never in front with her own creation, because he has such a giant near to her, and she was sharing the creation with him. It's really an erotic, sensual work they did together, and she was totally involved. She didn't need to be with the ego. And when Luc, unfortunately, passed, she started to develop her own things. And so we took the chance to have the Pompidou thing to present her work. First, there was a friend of mine that was just presenting Dialogue ordinaire avec la machine, another fantastic acousmatique, electroacoustic piece. So it became kind of a special presentation, and was also special for me because I never got close to a musique concrète musician, even if Luc Ferrari was absolutely my favorite one, because other labels were working with them. Subrosa, for example, you don't enter too much in the territory of others. That was in the beginning, at least, and I've been many times attentive to that. They were very well documented. Philips were producing all the CD of Pierre Harry. That they had no need for independent production. I was very close to the poet, which were not fighting with the musician, but sound poets and musique concrète composer, they had a very different world. And I was very much together with the poet. And so this kept me far away. When Beaubourg asked me to coordinate this event, I had to do it with Brunhilde. And even if we met a few times before, I remember we had dinner together many years before in their house with Luc. A friend of mine remained a very close friend to them. It was the occasion to do something together. And I proposed to do a record as a testimony of this work. And in fact, this became a kind of legacy, and we started to work together, producing Luc Ferrari work. I will speak about it later because the next Oeuvres Sonore number 3 has a specific subject about that. So I suggest that we listen. It's a long piece, so we only play an excerpt. And it's an electroacoustic piece by Luc. Let's find it. Well, to finish with the fanzine. Not only I printed this, they photocopied that. Like usual, we did this program. Every piece was explained. This is the biggest booklet we did. The photocopy guys probably got crazy to do that. But this is the first time ever that, that's the photo I was talking about. It's like two zombies with the service they did. And it's the first time that all the autobiography are collected in one publication. As a CD liner note, in a concert note, in different occasions, Luc Ferrari wrote his own autobiography, the autobiography of himself. And they were always very poetical text. It's a way to speak about himself without any information about his life, but it tells so much about the music. So it's a poetry text that is very informative. And he also played with the idea of the series. There are, maybe when the time we published this, there were 17. So they relate one to the other. I maybe display when we listen to music, a couple of them. They are in French, if you can read it, and you will see. And I propose to Brunhilde to present all of them here. I think they've been after that reprinted in a book, so they are available now. But this in the ephemeral fanzine that people throw under the chair after the concert, it was created by us with the Nouveau Media. Let's listen to this. Again, it is not something we propose at Centre Pompidou. but I try to find for this meeting with you things that I like. And for me, this piece is one of the best he did. It's unpublished today, so I'm working on that. I'm a lazy guy, so sooner or later, but it's part of the project, a big project that I am working on that I will explain later. So let's listen to Labyrinth. Yeah, here we go. No, sorry, I did it wrong. I was already here. It's fine. He was already nervous. What is doing? Okay. Okay. I figured it out. This was, in fact, was a background music that Luc conceived for an installation in Paris and belonged to a group of work that is, they were not documented simply because Luc didn't like them. And he had a private catalog that circulated among friends, and he made some notes about this. You find it sometimes. It was not it's something that it was not really available to public, but circulated in a way. And you can find little note about. And this group of pieces I got interested in, they were considered by him minor things he was not proud of. And it was in a moment, I think it was the early 70s, I might be wrong, I don't remember the date, but when artists were tempted by the possibility to leave the work open. Umberto Eco wrote Opera Aperta. There was the concept by Alia, by John Cage. You leave the thing open and you either improvise, the performer finish it like a freedom. It goes beyond improvisation. And Luc Ferrari, of course, was working like an alchemist in a studio, musique concrète. You work on montage, on every sound. You really are crafting the composition sound by sound, creating, recording the sound that then you will use, slowing it down. And it's a careful work, even if he did a lot of recording out in the walking with the wife, nature, sound, but then he manipulated all these catalog of recordings. And so for him to leave the things open, like going out of the studio, other people will finish my work, was something like the opposite what he was using. But it was a possibility that he wanted to try. He started with Études d'improvisation, which were some recording that he didn't finish, and he was left to professional musician, to kids in the school, a band, anybody can, like a social thing. In fact, it was a very political work. He recorded Éphémère, which I published. Éphémère was again like a background tape, which alone I found fantastic, but that a rock group can finish, for example. So I did a CD titled Éphémère, which was ephemeral, but also sound effect, éphémère, sea effect, but also mother effect, mère, like the mother. And the first piece is just the tape, a short tape without any sound on it. The second one, it's a long piece with, in fact, electric guitars. And every time Luc was very disappointed. He said, it's really bad what they did with my music. And he had to accept. It was part of the game. But so soon he stopped and went back to the studio producing masterpiece of what he did with musique concrète. But he created a collective called Atelier de Libération de la Musique. It's an atelier for free, make music free, which was a collective, a political collective that should act in the school. They have a public program they proposed to institution. It was made by him, Bezombe, that was electronic music guy, who play org, Martin Davorin Jagodic, which was a Yugoslavian composer living in Paris, who played synthesizer. Luc was playing kind of electric piano, and Petit, who was a flute player. And with Atelier de Libération, they never recorded an album, because again it was an ephemeral thing, but they recorded repetition. So I have all the repetition of this group, this collective, which already published on a first record, and I will soon do the second one, because the whole thing, this whole organization, in fact, was done for a specific event that was an installation about contemporary society in the Musée Galliera, which was the fashion museum. The Museum Galliera is made in a cross. So what Luc conceived is 4 sounds connected to modern civilization, its war, its economy. It's very critical, his point of view. And what you heard now, it's one of the 4 sounds. The 4 sounds naturally mix in the central space. where the Atelier de Libération de la Musique, the 4 musicians, can come and complete the work by doing their improvisation. So that's why they were doing repetition, to tune and to go there and be ready to do something together over the 4 drones. The 4 drones created another work that is called Labyrinthe de la Violence, Labyrinth of Violence, which I published in an edited version curated by Brunhild, but the integral, each drone, so what you heard, it's the edited version by Brunhild. The integral, these electronic pieces, the 4, are 1 hour long. And I'm soon going to have a 4 CD box with the 4 sounds out, which I think these were only background music to be played on, but if you heard, for me it's a fantastic, it's a great composer. He knows how to treat the sound, even to do something that should be just a basic material to be worked on. So I would quickly go to the third one. You will get no sound for this. This is the, but I can open the fanzine. Okay. The third one, I got solicited by Centrul Pompidou, by the Nouveau Media, to do something with young people. Charlemagne, John Giorno, John Cage, Luc Ferrari, we want to have a fresh, new, young composer. And again, with the idea of not overdoing, if the first event was in 1 day and the second was in 2 days, the third one was in 3 days. So I, at the time, okay, no, you have to be patient, like this. February 22nd, March 18, April 15th. I was connecting to La Maison Rouge, which was a private art foundation, the biggest in France, created by Antoine de Galbert, who was Mr. Carrefour. He was the guy who owned Carrefour Distribution. He was supposed to be art mecenat, but somehow got involved by the family to deal with the business. So he had to take care of Carrefour. At the same time, he was a big collector. And the idea of La Maison Rouge was to showcase, to present the collection of the collectors. As a music collector, art researcher, I am connected with many other guys like me in the world. On his level, he's connected with many other guys like him in the world, who has great connection by Tiziano, the best Duchamp, but he's very much into art brut as well. He had an incredible collection, he has an incredible collection of ethnic hats from tribes in Africa, in Oceania, displayed in vitrine, behind. It's incredible. He had the possibility to buy, to research, and so he created this space which is no longer there. A very close friend of mine, Guy Schrenen, presented record by artists. So he did his own collection of vinyl record made by contemporary artists. So there was different possibility to collaborate. And when Beaubourg proposed me to do the meeting with the young friends, I invited a young composer, Giuseppe Elasi, which I like, a personal friend, and I like his work very much, and a couple of friends from Paris, Vincent Eplé and Samon Takahashi. They just released a record for a new label I did at the time called Planam, based on the electronic music based on the Pierre Clémenti experimental movies. So they were around, and I said, you want to do something? We proposed the three of them with some experimental instrument presentation and to do the work. But at the Maison Rouge, I stick more with what was my... so this was the event at Centre Pompidou. Giuseppe presented an electronic piece. Vincent Eplé did something about video installation and electronic sound. He comes from theater too. Samon made the demo. He showed 2 videos he made. He's also a contemporary artist, and a demonstration of a electronic music instrument that he invented. So, but at the Maison Rouge, we presented Ben Patterson. He did free performances, and with Brunhilde and Gol, it's a collective that Samon Takashi is also part of. They presented as a premiere exercice d'improvisation. It has been used in schools in different way, but it was never been published. So we published exercice d'improvisation as a first, and this connects to the music we just heard by Luc Ferrari. As a consequence, when I had to produce a record connected to this event, I proposed Brunhilde to do a vinyl LP with the electronic music that she just presented at Centrul Pompidou, which is the first ever record that Brunhilde did. Sub Rosa, I think they reprinted that on CD some years later. I would go to the next œuvre sonore, which is the fourth one. Oh shit, what I did. Wait, where is Bucharest?
In the center.
Okay, it's hidden by this. Bear with me. Eccolo qua. As easy as that. So, œuvre sonore number 4. Eliane Radigue. As many institutions do, Centre Pompidou, sometimes they have empty space in the program. It was a moment where women musicians, being a female started to be, I have to say it in a correct way, otherwise I sound like a machist. But it's true that women vindicate the right to be equal in work, and this is a long story that's been going on. And there has been a time in recent history when this movement of the women against the male domination in cinema became very actuality and very strong movement. And to have solidarity with this thing, and because there was a possibility to do that, let's say like that, Centre Pompidou decided to make an exhibition called Elle, She. And the exhibition, they just went in the cave and checked what work they had by women. And of course, since they have an incredible collection, it was easy to compose a very high-level exhibition. And they made a catalog about that. And that in that context, Nouveau Media said, why don't we present the music by women? And what would you suggest? And it was, for me personally, a very big chance and meeting to connect to Eliane Radigue. And this has been very important for my label. And after Luc Ferrari, they were starting. There was a moment where Eliane Radigue was published by Lovely Music back in the 70s with Robert Ashley reading an electronic music by Eliane Radigue. It's one of the best Mila Repa, something, the title, I don't remember. But then another friend, Phil Niblock, with Experimental Intermedia, he published a 3 CD set, Trilogie de la Mort, which got very, but was a moment where she was not so popular, let's say, at the top level. A friend of mine made a CD and it was difficult to distribute it. I arrived in a moment where independent prices, she got more and more requested. She started to go back to composition, working with the instrument and stop electronic music. And it really became iconic in all levels, like a #1 reference in our music. Exactly in the same moment, Centre Pompidou sent me to meet her to develop a program together. And of course, even if she's detached, she was, because unfortunately she passed recently, unconnected with the reality because she had no internet. It was very difficult to reach, and she wanted it to be that way. She had antennas, she had people that she can use, is not a nice word, but she can collaborate to connect to this and that. And what became a good friend of mine, Emanuele Olterbach, was the antenna for electronic music and installation. So Eliane is contacted by Centrul Pompidou. Of course, she reacts. She wants to have a presentation in the biggest museum in France. She said, you speak to Emanuele, and Emanuele and Emanuele, they connect, and they start to have to build this program, but at the same time, he liked the idea to have a record out. So this is the first, I even did a different version with a different sleeve, but this had to enter in the series of records I did with Pobur, so it makes sense that has this layout. And what did we publish? What did we present? So, fanzine. In that case, I will make it short. I had a new girlfriend, which is my wife, and I moved from Paris to Denmark. In fact, I moved to Middle East because my then girlfriend, now wife, she was dean of an American university in Qatar. So it's another big shift for my life. And I get closer to the Danish world. Guess why? So I start to be more interested by Danish composer. That lead me later on to meet the Danish free jazz, but this is another story. And so I discovered Else Maria Pelle, and Daphne Oram was a big name at the time because of the electronic music. She was well distributed and produced, especially in England. I proposed Else Maria Pade because I found electronic music. Well, she's a very important composer, close to Caroline Stockhausen. Her life as a young woman in occupied Denmark by Nazi, it's an adventurous, and the way that she can coordinate the electronic music studio in Denmark, it's a reference figure there. Charlotte Morman, I never met her personally, but I feel very close because I did the first big anthology on her that's called Cello Anthology. It's a thick book with 4 CDs and all the posters for the Avant-Garde Festival of New York. That's the next record, so we will talk about her later on quickly. And so Daphne Oram, Else Maria Pale, Charles Morman, and Eliane Radigue. Luckily for the French people, I'm not speaking in that event. Emanuele Olterbach does, and he does a perfect presentation. We present Jouer Electronique, which I will then produce on record, that we will hear now, maybe an excerpt. What music Emanuele Olterbach proposed me to produce, and we agree with Eliane to document, it's feedback works. Feedback works, it's a special cycle of work that he created in the beginning of her career. As a young woman, she was in South France, friend with Yves Klein. She became wife of Armand, so he was very close to Nouveau Realiste. But at the same time, as a composer, she was close to Pierre Schaeffer, the birth of musique concrète. She has been working to one of the masterpieces of musique concrète, Apocalypse des Gens, by Pierre Henry. She was a operaio, she was a worker, cutting the tape, gluing it, and in fact, inside this group of composers, she was one of the maybe the only woman. And Belle was there, Luc Ferrari, and Pierre Henry, Pierre Schaeffer. That this woman around again at that time, and it was quite annoying for the wrong reasons. And so one of the first things that Pierre Henry does is to send her home. Said, Eliane, you have to do practical things. Maybe you are more comfortable to do it in your place. Like, don't come here. We are doing serious things. We don't want you a female among us. I exaggerate, but that was the sense. And in order to have Eliane be able to work for him at home, Pierre-Henri gave her 2 reel tape machines, two big Tulana reel tapes, and some simple mixer. And what happened in reality is that in this way, Eliane Radigue found herself with a very primitive electronic music studio at home, where nobody had. Pierre-Henri had maybe, but they had the electronic music center connected to television most of the time. You don't have like a laptop now. This machine, they were in an institutional place. The fact that she had them at home to do the work, the simple work, the splicing the tape that she needed to do for Pierre-Henri, by accident, she found out that when you put a tape and the 2 machines are at a certain distance, it creates a feedback noise, a Larsen. It's really a millimeter job. And because she discovered this phenomenon by chance, then she started to experiment with this. As a young girl, she had a lot of recording of a natural sound, water, the wind that she recorded in South France. And she started to play these natural element sound and to move the things a little farther and to see what feedback effect that she can generate and record the feedback and start to catalog the feedback. And this feedback became the first element, material that she used for composing her music. That's why it's called feedback works. In fact, what she does with electronic music later on, when she goes to New York and finds the harp synthesizer, in the same studio where Charlemagne was, late night in Columbus Circle, the first thing she does, she takes the clavier, the keyboard, and she throws it out. And she starts to fine-tune, like what Charlemagne was doing with his drum machine, fine-tune the sound, like moving millimeter, adjusting the filtering. The same thing she was doing with the magnetophone, with the reel tape machine, only that with the electronic instrument, everything was much more under control. Because if you move it wrong, everything goes away. So to handle the feedback material was very delicate, very tough. And and she didn't consider those works so important. So in fact, it was Emanuele Olterbach that saved this work. She was ready to throw everything out. And she convinced her that these were very relevant. And in fact, so here comes a publisher who is interested. Let's propose to him. So we put this into value. And I was very lucky as a consequence to have all the feedback works available in a few years, little by little, to be published. And I propose we listen to Jouet électronique. Eliane said it's really a jouet, it's really a little toy, a little nothing. But this is a work she accepted and in fact she cherished much. No, I should go here.
This is her first piece.
Yeah, yes. Opus Decept is the major work. Then she does something when she's invited in the United States and they don't have the mean, she still does a feedback work, which is later on, which is called, not In Memoriam Ostinato, but I don't remember now the title. But this is, all the group of work were done before she discovered the synthesizer. So it's the early things. Jouet électronique is the first. In fact, that's a secret, I can tell, even if it's documented. There is some recordings that she did before that, but it's not available in a way. So this is the first work, like in a catalog. So let's play that.
No,
It's the one underneath, but you heard nothing, so everything is going smoothly, isn't it? Là. Okay, fade it out. Let me close this. And it's almost 10 o'clock. So, shit. I think we should end here. Big suspense for the last two records. And do we have 2 minutes to read a thing, or you really think it's we are getting done? It's a yes, no?
If it's minutes.
Yes. So.
We will buy for the library the whole box, and you can come and listen and explore and read the findings and things like this.
So, I just wanted to read a text which a friend of mine wrote, and very well represent, it could be me, in fact. I read very badly, so bear with me. My favorite place is a ship, a magnificent and large ship of war from 1628. There was a ship in Stockholm, Sweden. It was buried for hundreds of years in the harbor of Stockholm, resting in the mud, a sunken ship. Of its maiden journey, it went down to the bottom of the sea, wrongly constructed and with far too many cannons on board, it sank at the first breeze hitting those large sails. It was the biggest failure in Swedish naval history and war action ever. An awkward event that quickly got wiped away from the history books because of embarrassment. It rested in the mud, biding its time, until some researchers found her in 1956 and started to investigate the possibility to bring her up from the depth. A long and very complicated process started, and voila, up she went in 1961, a sensational process unveiling a spectacular ship as well as a thrilling document of failed ambitions. Preserved at a very high percentage, over 98% of the wood is still intact, and original tools, clothes, and even sails preserved in the mud because of the perfect balance, breaked water, and the lack of oxygen in the mud. What the odds, and how beautiful is it with such a failed symbol of war and megalomania being turned into a highly successful museum, visited by millions of people. Epic. There are many hidden secrets below the surface, everywhere. What is really down there, deep down, not only below the water surface, but any surface? How would we know if we do not dig for it? We will never find it. We will never find anything. Deeper knowledge and experiences are not created by the artificial intelligence or ChatGPT. They are created by us, by experiencing it, by sharing it, by learning, by doing it. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. Therefore, I dig. Digging in archives, revealing music treasure hidden in the past is something I love. I can't get enough of it. The joy when the pieces are put together, where something unknown is revealed, and this information is put together with other knowledge, creating an understanding for the matters look into. There is music from the past, hidden not in the mud, but forgotten about, attempts of creating new music, new ambition, new perspective of the free. Revealing creative music from the past is my mission. I live by it. I tremble by joy when I think about the satisfaction of finding unreleased, unknown music that is kicking my ass and mind. A lot is forgotten. A lot of forgotten music is forgotten for good reason and should rest where it is, in the mud. But in some rare cases, there is music that we cannot understand why it was not released at the time of its making. Legal problems, artistic excitation, or maybe just the timing of it all. As I said before, I will keep getting back to it, the emergence of free jazz scene in Denmark in the early 60s and so on and so on. So I think this text that my friend Mats Gustafsson wrote for a new record that I'm bringing out of free jazz, in a way explain in his words what pushed me, yeah. So I wanted to share it with you. Okay. And could be a nice end for our, thank you for your patience.